It'll be like blooper. They can be like blooper. All right. Welcome to episode 6. This time it wasn't TikTok, but it was vlogs. It was YouTube. I was able to get away from YouTube to record episode 6 of After Bedtime.
There's only a small amount of things that bring me joy. I'm just kidding.
You gotta cram your adult life into those wee hours when the kids are sleeping.
Yeah.
Episode 6. It's a big deal. We made it through a month. I came prepared with a list of topics. It's very professional, very put together. I guess real quick, recap Kyler's birthday. What would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, I overthought and worried and for no reason.
Yeah, you kind of acted like if too many people showed up, they were gonna like put us on a permanent no. Like
I didn't want them to.
No birthday parties for you.
I didn't want them to.
I don't think they would have done that though. They seem like pretty reasonable people.
I know, but their room says maximum capacity 25, and we had like 40.
You're a rule follower.
Show up, and I just didn't.
You're like Cal. That's where
Want
Cal
that
gets
to be an issue. I think it was a good birthday. We went to Ocean's Indoor Adventure.
The birthday was a blast, but you didn't rate it overall 1 to 10.
A 10.
10? I'd give it a 10.
Because I love that place. They set it all up for you. You just walk in. Your kids play for 2 hours. You give everyone snacks and drinks, and then they leave.
Yeah, fun times, good times. It's
I
crazy
just like
that
how
it was
you
2.
wear them out in those 2 hours. That's what's
Yeah, they're
nice.
just dead afterwards. The one thing that I still haven't gotten done is Kyler's video.
Yes.
That's the goal for this week. It'll only be a week overdue. I'll make him a video for his whole second year.
I mean, he won't know it was a week late unless someone tells him.
This cord's bothering me.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that big of a deal.
Just it's bothering me.
What would
Let me
you
fix
rate?
it.
What would you rate his birthday?
I'm just gonna fix this real quick.
There's a lot of wasted time in this already.
That's okay. That's people come for the authentic. We don't have high production value, so all we have to bring is just authenticity. I would rate his birthday like a 9. I think the only downside of those places is all the other people that you don't want there, but have to be there because
I wasn't bothered by any of that.
Yeah, so that would be my only complaint.
I mean, if you want to shell out the money to rent the whole place, we can.
No, that's too expensive.
I do think Andrea said this while we were there. We were talking about this. I do think it would be really, really fun to like rent the whole place out for like adult birthdays, like the afternoon. Like
we need
make
to do
some
that
sort
for
of arrangement with them that like after hours or something like that, rent the whole place out and then just have like a whole bunch of adults just.
I feel like though that's less of a Oceans and more of a
Soar.
Yeah, like a trampoline park thing.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. I'm gonna take that down as a note. We need to do a trampoline night.
But I don't even know if they do that. In Soar, it would probably be a lot more money. At Oceans, we could probably get it for like a good price.
If they pay, if you're willing to pay, I'm sure they'll take our money. If we're like, hey, we want to pay for 20 adults to come and party here. Not like party, but like just have fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun times. My next quick topic, this is just kind of, getting the conversation going, mixing things up. My next one is the Super Bowl, which I know like you were there really not so much for the game, but like from my perspective.
I enjoyed the last half of the game.
Yeah, like I thought it was one of the better Super Bowls in the last few years.
Yeah.
It was, you didn't know till the last minute who was going to take it away. And for a little while there, you thought, oh man, the Chiefs are going to get upset. And then they came out of nowhere. And it was really surprising how well the 49ers played. And the food was really good.
Yes.
They did a good job on the food.
Michael's ribs were like.
And I think everyone really appreciated our
level.
fruit platter that we brought. That made it. Obviously.
It was a veggie platter.
Oh, veggie
so obviously
platter.
You didn't pay attention.
It,
but what was funny is Allie tells me to bring that, and I walk in, and Michael has like prepared a veggie platter.
Well, just so everybody knows, if you ever invite us to a party, we will bring one killer veggie platter.
I will bring what you ask.
We don't.
Allie asked.
We don't consider.
She said if you want to bring some juice for the kids or like a veggie platter to throw some more veggies in the mix. That's what she said.
See, like I like food and I do like to cook every once in a while, but right now I just value time so much that like everything is like a decision between like, okay, I could cook some eggs and toast in like less than 10 minutes, or I could like prepare a whole meal and it take 45 minutes. And it's just like, no, I'd rather have those 35 minutes back.
Agreed.
You know? So I'm sure at one point like we'll be more cook and bring things and host things, but I don't know, it doesn't really feel like that's...
Well, I don't really think that is our personality. I do think that we would enjoy hosting, but not so much on like the cooking part.
Yeah, I don't really like to cook for other people. That's one of the things I find hard about like my day job is like I really could care less if you like.
Sorry if you can hear Opie snoring. It's really loud.
It's super
I'm sure
loud.
You can hear it, but that's what's happening.
Opie, get off the podcast.
Stop.
But that's like I just could care less if people really enjoy what I make because I make it or it suits me. And I don't know, so I always feel bad because of that. I always kind of like hedge not to cook for people because I know like I'm not really that focused on making sure they enjoy the meal.
Yeah.
Whereas like I think other people.
Well, I think the ones of our little generation of, or at least group in our age group, I think the ones that enjoy cooking is like Michael. He actually truly enjoys doing that. And randomly in our family on both sides, not the ones you would have guessed, but Tyler loves to cook for everyone.
And Lane likes to cook.
And Lane. Those are both kind of shocking to me. If you would have asked me that like 15 years ago, or I would not have seen that coming. But also another thing, they're both really good cooks. I have not eaten something
everyone
that
actually
they've
has
made
some
is
skills.
really good. But Michael's ribs this past Sunday was really, really good.
But the Super Bowl was good.
It was really good.
It was good. We get off topic.
How did we get off topic? That's what you were talking about.
We were talking about the Super Bowl, and then
you said the food was good.
Yeah, the food was good, and then we just.
You said to get the conversation.
This is long
going.
format anyway, so it's okay. I don't think people care, or maybe they do care. I don't know. Tell us. Find us on Instagram. Leave us a comment. Send us a direct message. Okay, this is really just like a selfish brag thing, but I feel like it's something I want to share. Is like, so one of the goals that we talked about in our very first episode for 2020 was paying off your student loans at the minimum for the year. And so in our first month, we had only budgeted to put $144 towards it, and we ended up putting a total of $293 to it.
That's awesome.
So we doubled it, a little bit more than doubled it. And February is already better than that. So, when it was like a shotgun noise, but I think I was more of going for like cha-ching. Yeah. Another one of our goals for 2020 that we talked about in our first episode was making more time for us. But just because it sounds cheesy, like God, we gotta.
I don't think that sounds cheesy.
I feel like it sounds cheesy.
You're making it sound cheesy.
Anyways,
by your actions.
We talked about just trying to be more intentional about creating time that's us instead of just kind of what's ever convenient. It's so loud. It's so loud. The recording is just going to be one big.
I woke him up to see if it would change.
Where was I? Oh, I was talking about how basically to improve on the fact that, not that I feel like either of us are complaining about the time we spend together, but I think sometimes we just we don't prioritize it. It's.
I think we get comfortable.
It's
in our day-to-day life.
We wake up, we do our morning routines, we do work, we come home, we take care of the boys, and then whatever's left over, And I think this is part of that, like being able to have this set aside time to have conversations about things. But we went on our first date night last week or the week before. We used my old Chicago gift card.
Yeah.
And we went to pick out Kyler's birthday present. So that was 2 weeks ago.
No. Yeah.
2 weeks ago. What'd you think of going on a date with me? Did you have fun?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, like, I didn't know what your reaction was, but like, I thought it was fun to do the questions.
I liked the questions.
Yeah.
I also liked that it was like you looked up the first date questions type thing, and that was funny in itself. But it also made me realize that like there's still stuff that we can find out about each other.
Yeah, and
even though we've been together for almost like 11 years.
I think sometimes though people have negative connotations about those things because they're like, oh, you have to like come up with prompts to like have a conversation. You know what I mean? But I almost feel like that's all those things is really just to like find interesting or different things to like. They're like starters. Like obviously the conversation is going to evolve and roll.
Yes.
But sometimes it's fun to like have something new.
If people say that, it's more of they are insecure with their own ability to talk to their significant other, because when you get into a routine of things, when you go, especially as like being parents, when you go out on a date night, that's all you talk about is being a parent. You talk about your kids.
Well, it's just what's top of mind, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of helpful to have
those questions help you kind of bring a more deeper.
They break out of that pattern of thinking or what's on your mind, what's on the surface, typically.
And it's also kind of hard sometimes because we also have been together for 11 years, so a lot of the stuff we do discuss sometimes we've already heard because we're with each other every single day. There's not a lot of like new, like
I thought it was fun
to talk about. I liked it.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were gonna, because I just feel like sometimes maybe girls more than guys tend to romanticize like, they're romantic, like it all just happens so easily, and not that it's like hard to talk to you, but I don't know, just sometimes it's easy to like. Sometimes it makes things easier when you have like prompts like that.
Yeah.
It's like. I don't know what's new, what's different.
I saw another couple that I follow on Instagram. They were talking about this like date book thing that married couples have, and it's like almost like challenges or something, and each page has these like scratch off areas, and you scratch it off, and then you read whatever the challenge is, and then you take a picture of doing that challenge and put it in that book. Well, one of the challenges that they had was like build a fort in your house and watch movies inside the fort. So I thought that was like a really cute way to, because they were having a date night, but it was still like,
yeah, it's just a way to add.
They didn't have to get a babysitter or anything like that. It was just something
it's
special.
It's like a way to add creativity.
Yeah, break up the same routines every single day.
Yeah, like I've seen those Facebook ads.
Side note, they had one of these like inflatable forts that you get off of Amazon, and it was like $50 off Amazon, and it was like no joke, like legitimate.
Have you seen those Facebook ads for like murder mystery date night things? Like it's kind of like a box like a subscription box that comes to your house, and like it's.
Well, I've seen multiple different versions of just date night subscription boxes.
I think something like that would be fun.
Yeah,
I'm taking another note.
Okay.
Taking notes. I like to take notes.
I don't know if I'd want to do like the murder mystery thing because now I
And you get all anxious.
So I get anxious and paranoid very easily.
I'm glad we went on our first date. It was fun.
You mean like
The first date of 2020.
Our next one is going to be on Friday.
Yeah, we're going axe throwing.
With Dane and Karen.
That's going to be fun. Axe throwing is a lot of fun. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's so much, and it's like, it's kind of like people who like say like, oh yeah, I'm going to go golfing. And then there's guys that are like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do jiu-jitsu and choke some people out. It just sounds a little bit edgier, right? I like that. Like,
Okay.
It's like, oh, yeah, we're just going to dinner, movie with the friends. Or you can be like, yeah, we're just going to get some food and we're going to throw axes. It's all good. I don't know. I like that. This is, okay, so segue into a more serious topic. And it's actually a conversation we've had like multiple times over in the last 10 years. But it's a really good conversation. So I'm going to bring it up. I was going to bring it up on the last episode, but I felt like there wasn't enough time to do it justice. Extrovert versus introvert.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Well,
No,
I mean, technically there's 3. There's ambiverts
yeah.
now also.
Fair enough. However, I honestly believe the vast majority drifts to one end of the spectrum. Like, I don't think it's like 33% this, 33% this, I think it's like 45% this, 45% this, and maybe 10% that are kind of.
I think there's more ambiverts than what you think, because ambiverts are supposed to be able to keep up at an extrovert level, but they also feel comfortable in a introvert environment as well.
Well, I don't know. I would think, in my opinion, I don't know what the actual statistics are, but my hypothesis would be that there's more people towards it. I don't know. We could.
Because I don't think I am an extrovert 90% of the time.
I don't think you're an ambivert though. I think that you have to look at the classical definition. Where do you draw energy? And I think the vast majority. I think party line, or like the vast majority would say that, or I would say that you draw energy from others. That being alone does not provide you energy. It only makes you feel more and more drained.
Yeah, probably.
Whereas, and that's like the classic definition for an extrovert, whereas an introvert's the opposite. But I feel like very few people draw energy in both circumstances.
That's
like they get jazzed
true.
up in either. Now I think maybe some people stretch themselves or have learned to stretch themselves over time, so that maybe they may not draw energy from being an extrovert or being an introvert, but or being with people or without people, but they can sustain their energy longer. You know, like an introvert that's at a party with a lot of people, if that's something that they've had to engage in a lot for work, or maybe it's just their wife.
Yeah, because I think you have done a better job of not being so cranky after we leave.
Yeah, I think I've had to stretch that, but
that's also probably because you've been thrown into a family of very loud.
Yeah, and I think being a personal trainer forced that, because I had to be like very personable, interact with people. Although when I was doing one-on-one personal training, that was less energy draining because it was one-on-one, that's kind of, introverts are good there. That's kind of like, it's not necessarily restoring energy in my opinion, but it's not really drawing.
That's why I think Kyler is an introvert too, because he's okay in smaller crowds, but once we get like in the middle of like
for me it's the more the people and the bigger the energy those people are putting off, the more taxing it is to me. Like the louder and more obnoxious and the more over the top the people are, and the larger the group is, I feel a drain more and more. Like I feel, maybe it's not even a drain, but I feel a desire to interact less and less and less. Like it shrinks.
And I'm like the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like more.
So I'm not trying to, I don't mean to try to give like a master's class or a introvert, extrovert 101 class here, because I'm sure most people are familiar with the concept. But the reason why I'm going to bring it up is because I think there's probably a lot of people who share am I boring you? I'm just kidding. I feel like a lot of people are in our situation that we are in, whereas you are an introvert married to an extrovert, or you're an extrovert and you're married to an introvert. You know, whichever is your specific situation. There's a lot of
opposites attract.
I don't know what it is, and that maybe not a lot, but there's definitely other people I think that can relate to that.
Yeah.
And there's an added dynamic that puts on a romantic relationship, a very intimate relationship, that if you're married extrovert to extrovert, it doesn't exist as much. And I think there's a lot of learning and a lot of compromise and growing that has to happen. From both sides too, because I think the tendency is introverts are totally okay with being alone, but extroverts want to be with their introvert partner. So extroverts often, I feel, find themselves not getting enough of what they need, not because their partner's denying it of them or because they don't have opportunities for it, but because it's just they want to be with their other partner. And their other partner isn't going out with a bunch of people, they're staying in. So by default, it seems like they're the ones who bear the brunt of that more. Like I feel like in our relationship, that's the case. And not because I'm like, oh, Kelsey, you don't go out, or Kelsey, you got to stay with me. Because as the introvert, I want to spend time with you, but also if you were like, hey, I'm just going to leave you by yourself.
Well, I also think that a lot of, I don't feel comfortable as my fully extroverted self unless I have my little unit, and the main part of that is you. Like even in high school, if I didn't have like my close group of friends, I didn't feel comfortable in the situation. So I think I am more drawn to situations that you are just going with me because I don't feel comfortable going out.
Which makes sense. I mean, you got to have that. You also have to have that sense of security, in any environment. But the dynamic, I think it plays in our relationship, and it could play in other people's relationship, is because you draw energy in opposite situations. It can be very easy to leave one partner really filled up and the other partner empty, tank drained. Mm-hmm. And that can lead then to one partner feeling like, well, what did I do wrong, or what's the matter? And the other partner's like, I don't know why I feel this way. It can lead to like this incompatibility that causes friction and tension in a relationship that could be avoided. And I feel like it could have been avoided more, especially once we were living together, we could have avoided some friction and tensions if we would have been more self-aware about that and realized, hey, Kelsey hasn't been like out with other people besides me or at her work in 2 weeks. It's probably not great for her mental health, her mental well-being, her energy levels. She would feel better about life and feel better about her day-to-day if she was connecting with a larger group of people more often, to draw that energy in. Whereas I don't ever have that feeling, because it's a lot easier to get alone time in adult life than it is to find that social group. Yeah. It's just like, I don't think it's not so much an issue when you're in school, because there's just a lot of by convenience social interaction, but then you become an adult and everything takes a lot of planning and preparation and there's effort that goes into it.
Well, and once you have like kids and stuff too, that's like, it makes it 10 times harder, because like before we had kids, I would just have friends that were just around me all day long.
Yeah, they could come over whenever and hang out, because you didn't have to factor.
We could go eat, we could come back here, we could do whatever we wanted, and then then after we got married, that kind of slowed, and then after we had kids, that slowed, just because I was in a different stage of life now than the group of people that I hung out with.
Yeah, to me, it's one more logistical complexity of, well, like, you know, like when we go out Friday, right? We had to plan that a week in advance. You have to plan it around their schedule and their kid's schedule and your schedule and your kid's schedule, right? So you got to overlay all that. And then once you've overlaid all that, then you've got to go find someone to watch your kid. Yeah. And they also have their own schedule and agenda. So versus like me, if I want alone time, I just stay up after everyone goes to bed, right? Or I get up early before everyone. You know what I mean? It's very easy to just go off by yourself.
Well, I also think that I probably don't fight as hard as I should for more social gatherings, because like now I think our situation is kind of harder even more, because now that I don't go to work, I have even less social interaction. And then, but you go to work all day to where you're having to be.
Yeah, so I get some of that from just the fact that I work. And that's
what I'm saying is that I don't want to like force you to then go out, because you've been at work all day.
But I feel like that's part of the value of this discussion, that because I feel like we've come to a good place on this, but it's probably good to keep reiterating it, is that self-awareness of yourself, to say, like I used to always observe this in my brother. Like he would spend like two or 3 days like up in the loft at my mom's old house, and you could just tell, like I could just tell that his energy was gone, because all he wanted to do was just lay there, which is just so not him. And then once I kind of learned more and more about this introvert extrovert thing, it all made sense. It was like, yeah, he was like that because he hadn't been out hanging out with people all the time. And that's why he was such a social butterfly all the time in high school and growing up, was because that made him feel alive. It made him want to do things. It made him energized. Whereas, you know, but what I would have hoped that he would have realized in those moments was, I need to get out of the loft. I need to go find my friends. I need to go do stuff. But it's tough once you get in that cycle. Like it's just this vicious, I don't have any energy because I'm not hanging out with people.
It's just the same thing of why people don't work out. It's just the lack of discipline and knowledge of.
It's just that. I think that's what compounds it for people who are extroverts in adult life, is the effort, the amount of effort that has to go into it, combined with the fact that maybe you don't feel super energized, you don't feel like you have high energy levels, so therefore you don't even have much motivation to put the effort that's required in, and then it just feeds on itself. But to your point about trying to be considerate of me, I'm aware of that. Like I'm aware of the fact that you're an extrovert. So part of my role, I feel, as your partner is to, even that's not really something I feel I need. I feel that it's important to stretch myself to do that stuff and to participate in those things and to provide you the opportunity to go do what you want to do, so that because when you have a better mood and a better mental state, it selfishly benefits me, because our interactions are better, our life is better as in our relationship. And that's the hard thing though, because you're trying to be it's not self-sacrificing. It's just you're trying to be considerate of one another. I'm trying to be considerate of you wanting to go do things, you know, and you're trying to be considerate of me, the fact that maybe I want more alone time. And that's why, like, that's one of the reasons why I tried to initiate that with Dane and Karen, because I was like, this will be a good opportunity, because I like the axe throwing, I like Dane and Karen, but I also know that will be stimulating and help kind of fill you up in a way that nothing else really can. You know, that's not something, like, our one-on-one interactions can't fill you up the way being in a big group of people or being in a big group of your family can. It's just different. So I feel like as your partner, part of my responsibility is to try to look out for those things, and especially identifying it when I can tell that you're in that cycle. You know, when I can tell, like, okay, it's been a little while, so her energy levels are low. This is going to take effort. So I feel like some of my responsibility, not in a bad way, not like a burden, but part of my responsibility of taking care of you is to be like, okay, I'm gonna take this torch for this time to try to help get over that, break that cycle, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's like one aspect. That's obviously a very small aspect of each of our personalities, but I feel like it's so important because of it being tied to your energy. And maybe that's not the right word. Maybe it's your mental state, how you feel about your day and your life overall, and just feeling motivated and energized.
I can see that.
What?
I don't know what you wanted me to say.
No. I think it's worth sharing our back and forth on it and where we've come to an understanding of each other in the last 10 years, because it may prompt somebody else to consider, well, maybe that's why when I come home, my wife isn't that jazzed. It has nothing to do with the fact she's not excited to be with you. It's that she hasn't had the stimulation and the social interaction that would make her feel as excited as you do.
Yeah.
You know?
I've even noticed that if I just get me and the boys out of the house, like go walk around Target, anything like that, I've noticed brings me out of the darkness in my brain. And so I do appreciate that you take that into consideration whenever you come home, or if you see that I'm kind of low.
Yeah, I think you have to, because I think that's to me, that's part of taking more of a holistic approach to, like, caring for one another. You know, you're not just caring for each other like physically, you're not caring for each other in terms of like a roof over your head, food, like, but you're trying to care for each other emotionally and spiritually, and try to be in tune with those things and have conversations about it. I'm not saying that, you know, women should expect men to guess these things. I'm not saying that men should feel like they have to guess them, but to be having those conversations and trying to sort those things out and gain more understanding of one another.
And letting go of the pride whenever you are having those conversations.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And letting go, having some honesty and being transparent enough to say,
I am struggling with
I am struggling, and I am and being willing to accept, like, I am an extrovert. Because I feel like sometimes you have that, you know, we have that tendency ourselves when people want to put a label on us or say we need something. We're like, well, no, I don't need that. I don't need other people. You know, that's the big one. Like,
it's really just making someone in those moments of it makes you feel vulnerable. Yeah. And a lot of times, especially in this day and age, like, it's still, I feel like we're starting to break that, I don't know, threshold of people realizing that your mental state and your emotions, that's not a weakness.
No, it's not a weakness, and I think the vulnerability comes from admitting that you have a need that you can't fill in and of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably a hard thing for people just in romantic relationships. The fact being vulnerable enough to say, you know, part of my happiness or part of my fulfillment comes from this relationship with another person. So now it's like it's outside of yourself in a way.
Yeah.
Not in like a really toxic codependent way, but just in it matters to me. It matters to me if you're happy. It's important to me that you're happy, and it bothers me when you're not, and it bothers me when you're hurt. Like, that takes a level of vulnerability to be open. And then taking that to what we're talking about right now is you're basically saying that you can't fill your energy up, you can't fill that part of yourself up unless you're willing to go out and try to seek social connection, you know, with others, which is another state of vulnerability, because it's like, well, if I ask my friends to go to dinner, are they going to say yes? Or are they going to say no?
Yeah.
Or if I initiate a double date, are they going to have time for me, or are they too busy? It's like, it's just another, to me, it's another form of that rejection. You're putting yourself out there, and you're putting that fulfillment outside yourself, and you're kind of worried that, like you said, it means you're weak, but it's not, you're weak.
No, and I think that's just one of the biggest things that people have to start realizing. The people around you love you, and if the people around you don't show that they love you, then they're not people you should have in your life. If you can't show your weakness or your vulnerability in front of the people that you love, then there's nobody you can.
Yeah, you have
do
to.
That too.
Yeah, you should find places.
And you need to find a safe place for you to be able to do so, or you're not. Like,
you're gonna struggle to get what you need.
Well, I was pretty much gonna say you're not gonna make it.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, you're gonna. It's always
because
gonna feel.
There's so much heaviness that you need to be able to release that.
And I look at it. A lot of it is. I look at it from a pure selfish standpoint. Like, as an introvert, I can't be the person I want to be. I can't be the dad I want to be, or the husband I want to be, unless I put that oxygen mask on first myself. Like it may, at times I struggle with separating myself from our family, because I do love you guys and I want to be with you guys. But then I can also know, as my mood shifts, that it's because of my energy's low. I'm tired of this interaction. It's draining me. So I have to.
And in those moments when I tell you that you should go ahead and go work out, that's why I'm trying to inch you into.
And so I think I've been better about finding ways to get that alone time. But I know I've come to a place where it's selfish, but it's also in turn selfless. It's like contradictory, because
you can't be the best parent or spouse that you can be
unless I take care of me, right? And I think maybe, and I shouldn't say all of them, but I think maybe girls or mothers struggle with it more, because we as a culture have kind of put up on a pedestal people who are like self-sacrificing to the point of to a fault, you know, where everybody comes before them and everything comes at a cost to them. And I don't think we should have idealized that. We shouldn't have put that on a pedestal for women to feel like that's the standard they have to hold themselves up to. Because if you're a woman and you're an extrovert, then Friday nights with the girls is mandatory, because it's your oxygen mask. It's how you're going to fill yourself up for the next 6 or 7 days of taking care of people in a one-on-one setting, or taking care of your littles where it's just 1-on-2. You know, in your situation, just the same way as, like, for me, my time to myself, whether it be doing something on the computer or working out, any of those number of those things, or just watching Netflix, that's my oxygen mask.
Yeah.
I think it just, to me, it helps give yourself permission to do those things, because you're like, this is mandatory in order for me to take care of you. You know, if I pass out because I didn't put my oxygen mask on, you're not getting yours on either.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, it's a tough one, because there are times where you do have to sacrifice things, but I feel the pendulum has swung a little bit too far the wrong way, and we got to work on pulling that back to center, and the only people who can really do that are ourselves.
Well, I mean, extroverts in a parental setting, even stay-at-home setting, it's rough, because if they don't have the social interaction, they don't have energy. Well, then they don't have energy to clean their house. They don't have energy to take care of themselves or take care of their kids properly. And then it's like, so then what's the purpose of you staying home?
Yeah,
you know, like, because you don't have the ability to do any of it.
And it's just that self-awareness, being able to be honest with yourself and do that introspection and admit those things, and then take the action to do what's necessary and what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the first step's really hard. The second step may be even harder. Like once you've realized that about yourself and you've admitted it to yourself, then the second step is trying to take action on it. And that's obviously difficult in and of itself, but yeah, it's definitely worth something for people to talk about with their partners, and maybe not even in their marriage, but also in their work relationships, in their professional, just in relationships in general. A lot of these same things apply, so that you can watch out for each other, you know, and care for each other in that way.
Yeah.
This is a good conversation. It's going to add value to a lot of people. I hope you got value out of it.
I think this is the first vlog where you've talked majority of the time.
I try not to.
Me.
I try not to. Do you feel like I talk over you? I try not to.
No, I'm saying that where I just didn't dominate the conversation. I'm just over here holding my little baby Opie.
I have talked a lot because my mouth is dry. This actually came up yesterday when I was listening to my audiobook. That audiobook that I was telling you about, like movement. I told you about this on our date night, about movement and exercise and how important it is to like our mental well-being and our physical well-being. It's called The Joy of Movement if you're interested. It's really good. But it came up in that book about the 20-second hug. Have you heard this? Or maybe it wasn't, maybe I'm getting it wrong. It wasn't an audiobook. Maybe it was on a podcast. I just know I was listening to my phone and this topic of the 20-second hug came up. And the idea comes from a study that was done, maybe it was at Harvard University. I don't know. Don't cite me on this where it was done, but it was done by a group of researchers. You
don't know anything.
I'm not making this up. It was done by a group. You can Google it. Google the 20-second hug. It was done by a group of researchers. They recruited women into their studies, and then they measured these women's oxytocin levels and blood pressure prior to and after. It was like they watched, they talked to their spouse for like 5 minutes. They watched some kind of romantic video. They talked for another couple minutes, and then they gave each other like a 20-second hug. Mm-hmm. And then they measured oxytocin levels before that and after that. And then they also asked the woman to write a speech about something stressful or something, and then they measured them again, measured all the same things again after that. And what they found was that the people who did the talking with the spouse and the 20-second hug and all these things, had reduced levels of blood pressure, increased levels of oxytocin, and this was sustained through even the what they term the stressful situation. And so a lot of people have taken that study and used it to say that you can use like a 20-second hug, this prolonged like hug, to help reduce stress, reduce cortisol levels, increase oxytocin, which is the hormone that helps like mothers and infants bond and helps people bond with one another. Which it's just interesting because the reason why I bring that up is when you start to like be more self-aware of yourself, and you start to like learn that there's like things that you can do to like pull on the different levers in your brain or in your body to move yourself in the direction you want to go. Kind of like there's another one where if you hold a pencil in your teeth, it uses the same muscles that make you smile. So if you do that for a certain amount of time, you will actually begin to feel the same euphoria and the same sense of happiness as you would if you were like smiling and laughing. Because a lot of times I feel like sometimes we are stuck in that sense of like, I feel a certain way, I know I feel this certain way, but it's like I'm just gonna have to wait till this feeling goes away. Whereas if you, once you're self-aware of these things, you're like, oh no, I don't have to wait. I could just like call a friend and go do something. Or, hey, I'll try this pencil trick. Or, hey, let me hug my spouse for 20 seconds. And to me, that feels empowering, because it's like, while I realize it still requires effort and you still have to get yourself to do these things, it's empowering that you can.
Well, it shows you that you have control over the situation.
Yeah, that you have some control. You don't necessarily have to feel so like, well, I just feel this way. This is how I feel, and I'll just have to wait till it goes away, or I'll do that thing when I feel motivated to do that thing. You know?
Yeah. But the issue is you won't feel motivated
until you do that.
Until you do it.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like that about like even like podcasting. Sometimes there are times when I'm like not that I don't want to talk to you or that I don't want to do this.
It's because you don't want to talk.
No, I want to talk to you. But sometimes it's like, oh, but it'd be so much easier just to not.
Yeah.
Right? Because then I have to post produce it. We got to edit it. We got to publish it. It'd be so easier just not.
Saying we, but we don't do anything. That's all you.
But it's like, oh, it'd just be so, but then you fall into that trick of like, oh, well, I'll just sit here and I'll just do this thing until I feel like doing it. That's kind of the thing I tell myself in my head is like, I'll eventually want to do it, so let me just sit here and I'll watch some Netflix or I'll do this thing. And then but then
you just sink into it.
Correct, because the feeling never strikes you, right? So you just have to like
me getting the energy to go ride the bike today was next level. I was like, no, I have no desire. I do that over a span of a couple days, or I'll be like, oh, I'll do it later. Oh, I'll do it when the kids go to bed. And it never, I mean, I had to like physically make myself, but really what was I was dreading is because I've been doing this 6-week plan, and the class I had to do today was 30 minutes. And I was like, no.
Yeah, see,
I don't want to do that.
I've learned that. I think I've learned that over time, because I don't feel that I ever procrastinate things from a sense that I feel like I can't do them. It's more of like I tell myself this story like, oh, I'll do it when I feel like I want to do it. And then I think over time I've realized that feeling never comes. And then if I don't do that thing, I feel even worse because I didn't do it. And I have that sense of regret in that sense. So I'm like, so what I've tried to do is I've tried to make that story, whenever I start to tell myself that story, I've tried to make that as like a trigger to like, okay, you need to go do it. Yeah. If you're telling yourself that you'll do it when you feel like doing it, you just need to go do it. Yeah. Because once you start, you will be into it, you'll get it more excited.
What's funny is that me and Allie and Mom had a very similar conversation of that nature on Sunday. Allie was saying that she always picks things up because like before she'd just be like, oh, I'll pick that up later, but the big thing that changed in her life to where she doesn't ever think like that anymore is that Riley got into the ibuprofen. Do you
Oh
remember
yeah,
that when
yeah,
she was
yeah. We
puppy?
had to take her to the
Allie
emergency.
had woken up that morning and said, I guess Kitty must have knocked that over or something, and she goes, oh, I'll pick it up later. Well, then Riley got into it, and she had to get her stomach pumped, and it was like a big, huge thing. And so now Allie says that she has this like pit in her stomach whenever she goes to try to walk past things that she knows she should put up, because she just fears it now. She's like, but what if I don't pick it up and then something happens and it's terrible?
Yeah, and see, mine's not so much fear as I think it is that sense of regret.
Yeah.
I dread the sense of after the fact being like, oh, because I think as a kid,
It makes it worse.
yeah, and I think as like growing up, I tended to be a person who was like, oh, I'd really like to do that, but for one reason or another, I would talk myself out of it or be too self-conscious to do it or whatever, and then I would just find myself just obsessing over the fact that I didn't do it, and then it was just like, oh, I feel terrible, I feel unaccomplished, blah blah blah. So now that drives my behavior the other direction. But you can never get to that place until you start to have that self-awareness that we keep talking about. Do you have anything? We're coming up on 60 minutes.
Oh no.
We had a good the extrovert introvert. I think people are going to really enjoy that conversation. I think it's really important. I think it's important for us.
Well, I mean, that's why we're doing these talks, really. It's just things that are important to us.
Yeah, it's selfish.
Well, until people start telling us what they want us to talk about.
Yeah, we'll always take suggestions. That's all I got, man.
Then, good night.
That was a good episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We are gonna head to bed, or one of us is gonna head to bed, and one of us is gonna.
I'm not heading to bed. I'm going back and watching Chandras.
Okay. One of us is gonna watch vlogs. The other one's gonna edit this episode. But we hope you guys enjoyed it. We may not always feel like recording the podcast, but then once we do it, we really enjoy it. And I more enjoy being able to publish it and put it out there. That's more motivating to me to make sure to do it. So if you guys are enjoying it, you are getting value, please find us on Instagram. My handle is @Stevan.Freeborn. Kelsey's is @KFreeborn412. Send us a message or leave a comment on a post and just let us know that you're enjoying it. If you have any suggestions for future episodes or topics, we'd love to hear them. You have anything to add?
No.
Sums it all up. All right, we'll see you guys in the next episode.